Yeah, I was just about to suggest لأنه في لنا زملاء
اتفضل دكتور.
حابين إنهم يشاركوا بس طلبوا منا التسجيل لأنهم التايم عندهم بيختلف أو إنهم ما قدروا. فما بعرف if we will have access to this recording it will be really nice.
Yeah, إحنا we have a YouTube channel where all our recordings are on the YouTube channel. All our events are there.
Also, they're posted on Apatow as well.
Yeah, and they're also
Apatow,
posted
and you can go to Apatow and iGers. Yes.
So
that would be
if
great.
you
Thank you.
like, you can email me today or tomorrow, and I'll send you the link if you'd like.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. دكتور تفضل دكتور عبد الرحمن.
يعطيكم العافية جميعا. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be the moderator for this great talk. But before, let us start as what we usually do. So good evening, my dear friends and colleagues. It is a great pleasure and a privilege to be here amongst you today and to welcome you to our talk titled Vernaculars Between Theory and Practice, presented by Dr. Marwan Jarrah, the head of the English Language and Literature Department at our beloved university, the University of Jordan. Before we start, I would like to talk briefly about Prof. Jarrah, although I need, I think, hours to do so. But for time, permission, and limitations, I will briefly talk about Professor Jarrah. He is not only my colleague, by the way, he is also my dear friend. He obtained his PhD in English Language and Linguistics from Newcastle, England, UK in 2017. He was promoted to Associate Professor recently through doubling his points, which is an indicator of his vast knowledge in the field of linguistics and his exceptional research skills. In fact, he has received the Distinguished Researcher Award this year to be the first faculty member from the School of Foreign Languages to be granted this esteemed award. Thus, it's not strange that he has published numerous research papers on syntax, pragmatics, discourse analysis, and sociolinguistics in reputable and top-tier journals such as Journal of Linguistics, Lingua, Folia Linguistica, Natural Language and Linguistics Theory, and others. Without further ado, I give you Dr. Marwan Jarrah. Doctor, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Rahman, for this nice introduction of me, actually. And I would like to thank you so much. And I really feel honored to be introduced by an excellent researcher like you.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum jami'an. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Professor Jihad Hamdan, a lovely colleague from University of Jordan, for inviting me to deliver a talk at Apatow. And also I would like to thank our lovely colleagues, Dr. Dua Salami and Dr. Adina Salman, for their efforts actually in making this possible. Without their efforts, I don't think that this can be possible. So thank you so much. And I would like to thank all of our audience, all of our esteemed members of Apatow for your interest, and hope that you find my talk insightful. And I hope that it can engender some debate about vernaculars and standard Arabic and the priority on research on which domain that we should pursue, actually. Thank you again, and I will now start sharing my PowerPoint. Yes. Yes. So as you see, this is my topic actually, is vernaculars between theory and practice. I would like to say, if you feel free actually to interrupt me if there's something wrong. Vernaculars between theory and practice. And actually my main topic here is that research on vernaculars should be appreciated by scholars in the Arab world, okay? Especially those who are established actually in Arabic departments and in other schools, okay, beyond English language and literature. So my main idea is that research on standard Arabic is important, and also research on vernaculars is important, okay? It's not the case that we have conflict. Either domains, research on either domain should be appreciated actually, and this is my main topic.
Okay.
I will start my presentation with the idea of diglossia, okay, introduced in 1959 by Ferguson, okay. I'm aware that we have some previous work, thank you, some previous work on the relation between language and society before Ferguson, but he's the person actually talking about diglossia. And he referred to Arabic actually as an instance of diglossic effect, okay? We live in a diglossic situation, so we have modern standard Arabic and we have vernacular Arabic, okay? The main idea actually is what we write is quite different from what we talk, especially to friends and family. So we have two varieties spoken in the same country. For example, if you take Jordan as an example, we have standard Arabic, some people might call it modern standard Arabic, and we have vernacular Arabic, okay? One is high and one is low, and this highness and lowness, as you know, is diagnosed with respect to people's perspective towards each one of them. But the main idea that we have the diglossic situation in Jordan and in the rest of Arab countries. But now this gives us actually a very important question about priority in research. Should we direct our efforts, I'm talking about the linguistic efforts actually, on the standard Arabic or in the vernaculars or both of them? My view, actually, we should direct our research on both of them because both of them are important. But the main idea here, if we go beyond departments of English language and literature, we'll find this research on standard Arabic is more prior than that of dialects. If you ask some people of this, they would say that standard Arabic is the language of heritage, the language of history, the language of our religion, religious texts, all of them. I'm not talking about Quran here. I'm talking about, for example, books on religious texts and our historical backgrounds, our heritage, all of them are written in standard Arabic. So if we want to give something, some credit, it should be standard Arabic. And as you know, for some vernaculars might be viewed as a corruption. So because a kind of corruption, it shouldn't be the locus of our linguistic research. Actually, I did some research, did some interviews with some of my colleagues at the University of Jordan and at Yarmouk universities, okay? And I call them traditionals because they established themselves in the Department of Arabic Language, in the School of Sharia, religious studies, and actually in all schools in the arts and humanities. And this is why I call them traditionals, because they still believe in Sibawayh and all of this stuff. And it's not wrong actually, but I call them traditional because they don't follow the modern linguistic theory in their papers. So if you ask them towards research vernaculars, they will tell you the following, actually. Vernaculars are not informative. They say that they are not neither expressive, okay, as compared to Arabic language. They think that the standard Arabic is more expressive, is more informative, and if we would like to express ourselves in a good way, we need to resort to standards more than vernaculars. Some other people say they include many terms from other languages. So them, they are not pure Arabic. They are not pure Arabic. And this is one of the main reasons for them that we should not direct our research to vernaculars because they are not pure Arabic. Standard Arabic, by contrast, is pure Arabic. So it is an actual and true reflection of our heritage and history and all this stuff. And some of them actually, they say they don't even have solid grammar. I'm talking about vernaculars. For them, they say they don't have keys, you know, we have Alat al-Arab, In Arabic, in vernaculars, we don't have overt case marking. For example, in standard Arabic, we say ذهبت البنت, but in dialects, we say البنت راحت. So we don't say البنت or بنت. So for them, the lack of case markings actually is imperfection, okay? But actually in linguistic theory is a kind of economy, and we have many, many languages in the world without case. And for others, they say we don't have restrictions on word order, okay? As a kind of liberal, dialects are more liberal actually than standard Arabic. And for them, this is what makes the dialects a kind of mess. So they don't deserve research. And another point, they are just used for daily communication. They are never used for sublime poetry, literature, documentation. So if we have efforts, these efforts should be directed to standard Arabic. And we have a very important point actually, and which is voiced by many people who I interviewed. They say if they were important, they would have been explored by old scholarship. So their absence in the old scholarship makes them actually a kind of not needed for research. So these are the main views of traditionalists on the research on vernaculars. And if you ask them about Arabic, actually about standard Arabic, on the other hand, they would say that that Arabic language is the most expressive language that ever exists, okay? It's language of Allah Almighty and of paradise, and grammar of standard Arabic is sophisticated. So all of these factors make a kind of misconception among traditionalists, among people who are working on linguistics, that vernaculars don't deserve any rigorous research, whereas standard Arabic is the language that should be investigated, actually by the previous or old enterprises like Sibawayh and all this stuff. But actually this is for me, and I think should be reconsidered, because standard Arabic is important, but also vernacular is important, especially within the recent tenets and prescription of the recent linguistic theory. We have a difference between something called prescriptive grammar and descriptive grammar, and all of the linguistic theory, the modern linguistic theory, draws on the descriptive grammar than prescriptive grammar. Prescriptive grammar is the grammar that dictates what should we say. You need to say this, you shouldn't say that. Whereas descriptive grammar is the grammar that tells us what people actually say and perform in their actual life. And actually, standard Arabic is a well-known example of a prescriptive grammar, and it's even referred to by Chomsky in one of his books. I remember in 1966, he talks about standard Arabic as E-language, external language, not I language, not I internal language. Standard Arabic is the language for external uses, not for internal thought and all of this stuff. Standard Arabic is not learned, actually, it's not acquired. We don't acquire standard Arabic, okay, but we learn it, okay, in the difference between acquisition and learning, and that acquisition doesn't need a teacher, whereas learning needs a teacher. So standard Arabic is learned, not acquired. So standard Arabic actually for many people is a second language of all of Arab world, regardless of their native speaker mastery actually. Even if they are master at standard Arabic is their second language, first language, because their first language is their vernaculars. And this is why what makes vernaculars important for research. I don't downsize standard Arabic, but I'm saying that first language of people's vernacular rather than standard Arabic. Dialects are authentic source of descriptive analysis. Why? Because we have native speakers, we have validation of the results. If we have some generalization and we can test or verify these generalizations by recourse to native speakers, and we have, primary linguistic data, which is important for language development and acquisition. So this is the main idea, actually. So there's a difference between prescriptive and descriptive grammar. So vernaculars actually is a type of descriptive grammar, because in all books that try to describe vernaculars, we use the descriptive analysis, not the prescriptive analysis, simply because we don't have reference books on vernaculars. But in Standard Arabic, we use the idea of prescriptivism. So when you say actually that Standard Arabic is prescriptive, it means it's not actually good for linguistic theory that we pursue nowadays, because linguistic theory, modern linguistic theory, is a theory of cognition. I'm not talking about cognitive theories here, for example, semantics. I'm talking about the general framework of modern linguistic theory. All of them are theories of cognition, okay? In the sense that we use the language in order to understand the mind. So this is what important actually is, the understanding of the mind. And here we have a difference between competence and performance. I'm sure that most of you are aware of this difference. Competence is what we know about the language. Performance is what we actually do or perform in their life. So linguistic theory depends on the competence. And actually, as a native speakers of the vernaculars, our competence is native vernaculars, not the Standard Arabic. In other words, we don't have a competence for Standard Arabic as a native speakers. We might have some competence for Standard Arabic as a second learners, but not as a native speaker. And for example, this is an example. Standard syntactic theory is said to explore the human mind through the surface form. So in current syntactic theory, for example, the idea that we have subject and verb is not important actually. The importance is whether this relation between subject and verb is shared by other languages. So here we have the term universals, which are important. Why different languages with no typological or genetic relations share universals, okay? Why we need universals? Because universals are a window on how the mind works and how thought is processed. In other words, we can, in our research on vernaculars, we can compare using our competence standard vernaculars or Arabic to other languages and read something with universals, okay, which are important for us to understand the human mind. In current linguistic theory, description of syntactic or phonological relations are not important by themselves. They are important because they tell us something about how language works, and how can we know how language works? By universals. And for me, I don't think that we can get much of the universals if we just solely focus on the Standard Arabic. We need to focus on vernaculars because we have primary data, we have all of this stuff. And actually, this is the idea. Universal grammar, in other words, our research on vernaculars help us understand some universals, okay, and help us contribute to the ongoing debate on universals and their importance actually to the mind and to our understanding of how thought or mind is or are structured. So in universals, if we'd like to have some universals, we need primary data. And this primary data should be verified. Otherwise, we couldn't have anything about universals. In other words, we need native speakers. Vernaculars give us this advantage. We have a native speaker. For example, Jordan Arabic, we have 10 million speakers of Jordan Arabic, okay? But we don't have native speakers of Standard Arabic. So we don't have primary data coming from Standard Arabic, okay? So primary data is important because by which we can shape, understand, figure out the universals and how languages are different or similar. The second thing is that negative evidence. One of the main tenets of the modern linguistic theory is the negative evidence, not the positive evidence, okay? All reference books in Standard Arabic depend actually or draw on positive evidence. This is how people say, we should say that, we should say that. But negative evidence, the sentences that are ungrammatical. Here we need a speaker, native speakers, to tell us that this sentence is ungrammatical or grammatical. And in linguistic theory, what's important is to describe why this sentence is ungrammatical and explain its ungrammaticality. And I think vernaculars help us to talk more about this negative evidence. And if we have primary data, we have negative evidence, then we can talk more and more about computational system of the language. In other words, we couldn't contribute as the researchers to the architecture of a commutation system of the language or human language if we just focus on standard. Vernaculars are important because vernaculars, we can have primary data and we can have negative evidence. When we have both of them, we can say that this is why, this is wrong. And you know, in the West, for example, Chomsky, Ritzy, all of these stuff, Lapov, he says that this is right for all languages. This is true for all languages. We need to test whether they are right or not. And our testing actually coming from the native speakers, from the primary data, and from the negative evidence that we have. So what I'm saying here is that vernaculars are important because they are a window for university grammar, which is the core of the recent linguistic debates. And also vernaculars help us understand more and more about discourse-related issues of Arabic. For example, information structure, old versus new information. How old information is actually structured in the sentence, is structured in the dialogue. We need dialogues. We need natural dialogues of people in order to understand how old, for example, information is suppressed, how they emerge in the context, and how new information is also appears in the context. We need actually some, natural data, and I don't think standard Arabic help us a lot in here. So we need vernaculars because by vernaculars we can document, record how people say their dialogues, and by this we can understand how old information or new information is expressed in the sentence. And here we have discourse markers as well. We have, for example, Tara, Aad, Shakil. These are three major discourse markers in Jordanian context. In standard Arabic, we don't have discourse markers, simply because we don't have speakers, or simply because it's not spoken. If we're gonna talk about any generalization relating to discourse, we need spoken data, spoken form of the language. And I don't think that standard Arabic provide us with any of them, because even if we have some discourse, but this is not spontaneous. We need spontaneous form of the language in order to understand how information structure is actually enacted, how all the new information is structured and processed, and discourse markers and other ideas of topics and foci. For example, in the current linguistic theory, we have many types of topics, okay? Here topics مش معناها المبتدأ. Topics means old information. For example, we have a balanced topic, we have contrastive topics, and we have familiar topics, continuing topics, and actually there's much research and progress in this part of the world, but evidence coming from Arabic is so slim because priority on research actually on topics, information structure go to discourse, to standard Arabic. But if we talk and focus on vernaculars, we will have solid knowledge on how topics and foci are structured, emerge in the context, and or different types of foci focus information, which is the new information. Either it's a corrective or contrastive. In other words, discourse-related issues of Arabic cannot be reached actually only if we have some research on vernaculars. But another important point is this: if we have research on vernaculars, help us understand standard Arabic, okay? For those who think that vernaculars are corruption or vernaculars shouldn't be explored, this is actually a common mistake, because any findings coming from vernaculars help us understand standard Arabic. For example, we have many research papers on the etymology of some words of vernacular Arabics, where their implications are important to our understanding on the use of some words in standard Arabic. Also, language, diachronic development and manifestation. This is a very important issue, because in our records, actually, we don't have any diachronic development of standard Arabic. Standard Arabic is a written form of the language. Okay, we have written form coming from different periods. The main idea that these forms are not different. So we don't have diachronic development, but this diachronic development can be secured if we talk about vernaculars, or if in the past more interest come actually to the vernaculars. And on the syntax, I'm specialist in syntax. I think 95% of our understanding of standard Arabic, or the sentence structure in standard Arabic, coming from our understanding of vernaculars. So research on vernaculars help us understand the structure of standard Arabic. Pragmatics, you know, is a very important topic. I don't think that we have pragmatics of standard Arabic as such, because vernaculars need language and use. And I think real pragmatics coming from the true use of the language without any kind of, you need to be vernacular, spontaneous. And also variation of sociolinguistics is a branch of sociolinguistics where we have the variation or the effect of different factors. And I think here in this field of linguistics, the importance of vernaculars is very important, because we cannot determine for example, the effect of age, the effect of gender, the effect of education on standard Arabic. We need vernaculars. Otherwise, we couldn't have any, we couldn't reach any conclusions. And the last thing, actually, neurolinguistics. In neurolinguistics, how language is lost, the language lost, how language is acquired, the effects of some disease on the language processing, idea of psycholinguistics and neurolinguistics, the effects of dementia. All of this, we couldn't actually have anything unless we talk about vernaculars. So I think we are in a situation where research on vernaculars is a must. I don't say that research on standard Arabic is not important, but both of them is important. And actually, this is the conclusion of my talk, is that research on vernaculars is important for linguistic theory and shouldn't be suppressed. I know that this conclusion might be already known actually for our colleagues established in the West, but in Arab world, this is important, because still we have a conflict in research between people who are working on standard Arabic and who are working on vernaculars. And there's a very important point actually. As a linguist, I don't focus on Jordanian Arabic. I'm focused on the linguistic theory. I use Jordanian Arabic as a language by which I can test whether Chomsky or, for example, Labov or these scholars are right or wrong. So linguistics is not related or restricted to some language. Linguistics should be open to all languages, and any evidence coming from any language in the world is important. Actually, we have some linguistic evidence now coming from some languages in South America where we have only third speakers and fourth speakers, and we have many implications for the findings coming from those languages. I think vernaculars are important, and we have, and actually, this is the most important thing. Research on vernaculars is important, and research on standard Arabic is important, and there shouldn't be any conflict between both of them. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Jarrah, for this interesting and insightful presentation. Indeed, I enjoyed this presentation. And before we start, if I can begin with myself with a small small comment. Yes, indeed, they believe that standard vernaculars in general, they are the impure or a dialect which has a lot of deficits or whatever. they call it, of standard Arabic, although I do believe that vernaculars are older than standard Arabics. Vernaculars began before, and before standard Arabic, we had classical Arabic, which is the language of the Holy Quran. So the standard Arabic came as, let's say, like intermediate, or like an agreement between a few common, well-known dialects which were spoken like 100 years ago or something like that, to make it unify and to stop people who tried to go into Islam from doing what's called lahan. So in fighting lahan, they make the standard Arabic. But I do believe, this is my personal opinion, that it has never been nativized, standard Arabic. There were a group of classical Arabics. Like, I do believe there is a classical Arabic, but not the standard Arabic that we have, the one spoken by people in Al Jazeera, Khutaba al-Jawami', people who deliver speech on Fridays. So this is what I do believe. And if you can comment on this later, you can, if you would like now, before we take more questions from colleagues, it's your choice.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Rahman, so much for this nice comment. Actually, I do believe that vernaculars are important, okay? But the main idea, whether standard Arabic we have speakers or not, actually, is not important for our scholarship. The most important thing is that research on vernaculars and on standard Arabic, both of them are important. And I do agree with you that the idea of standard Arabic is vague, actually. We don't have solid evidence whether we have native speakers of standard Arabic or not. But the main idea, even if we have speakers, nowadays we don't have speakers. We don't have a native speakers of standard Arabic. It might be have in the past, but nowadays we don't have a native speakers of standard Arabic. And because the modern linguistic theory depends or draws on the importance of native speakers and their judgments, we need to be open to actually to any research on standard on vernaculars.
Thank you very much, Professor Marwan. Now, my friends and colleagues, if you have any questions, please press the button of hands up so we can give you the floors. Who wants to ask a question? Let's start with our colleague Muhammad Al-Masri. Please. Tafadhal.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I think where you are, it's morning here in Oklahoma.
It is evening here.
Yeah.
So good morning to you.
Thank you. So thank you very much for this very nice talk, and thank you to Dr. Jarrah for what he presented. I actually have a few things, but I'm going to limit myself to maybe 2 minutes or so. I would really like Dr. Jarrah and maybe all of us to consider our understanding of linguistic theory and how that impacts our views regarding this relationship between Arabic and vernaculars. I would like actually to call them dialects, not vernaculars, because vernacular, I mean, that's another issue. We can talk about it later, but I would like to go by the general trend of, standard versus dialect, as opposed to saying vernacular, because vernacular assumes that there's no written form. And if you look at social media, you're going to see that there is immense amount of written Arabic in all dialects. Anyway, so what I want to pretty much point to is that our understanding in linguistic theory, which has come a long way, actually takes lots of assumptions for granted. Now, the thing that we usually overcome or kind of avoid talking about or don't pay so much attention to is that much of the generalizations that have been adopted since the 1950s and up actually depended on data coming from Indo-European languages. They did not use data coming from Asian languages or Semitic languages. I'll quickly go over definitions of native language. So when you say that native language, a dialect is native or a vernacular is native because it has a group of native speakers who acquire the language as first language, not learn it in school. Yes, this is correct. But the idea is that when this definition was put forward, it did not take into account languages that are diglossic or multiglossic like Arabic. That's one thing. The other thing is this. Our view, which has been established a great deal in the, in academic journals, of Arabic as being diglossic, largely, heavily depends on Ferguson's account of 1969 or 68, I remember. And Ferguson actually took Arabic diglossia to be similar to German diglossia, and that is also fallacy. That's not true. German diglossia is very different from Arabic diglossia. And therefore, speaking of high language and low language and, high variety, low variety, this probably applies to German at the time, not modern German. It doesn't apply to Arabic. It never applied to Arabic. So we need to pretty much think of this whole idea. The other idea that goes with that is that standard Arabic does not have a group of native speakers. Again, this is true if you believe that the definition of native speakers is the thing that has been established in linguistic theory, which again depended on data coming from the European languages, that disregards Arabic, it disregards Chinese, it disregards, Asian languages. So I would caution, against taking all of these definitions for granted. And this is going to require a lot of work, of course, and collaboration. But the idea is that we need to really think whether Arabic provides sufficient evidence for people or for linguists to review or revisit the definitions of native language, diglossia, etc. And finally, I'm going to stop in, under a minute. I want to also refer you to a book that has been published in, I think, 2018. The title of the book, and I think it's a monumental one. The title of the book is Arabic as One Language. Arabic as One Language, integrating dialect. Integrating dialect in the Arabic language curriculum. So Arabic as One Language, you can just look for that on Amazon. I think this was a very nice book. A bunch of Arab linguists wrote in that book or submitted articles, and it kind of reviews the status of Arabic diglossia. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for taking more time than I should.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad. They were great comments, and they are really nice. They are insightful. Dr. Marwan?
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Rahman, and thank you so much, Dr. Muhammad Al Masri. I actually, first of all, appreciate your coming, your interest from USA. And I totally agree with you that we have some misconception on the main definitions on native speakers, what a native speaker should be, or whether we really live in a diglossic situation like that we have in German. But actually, this is from a theory point of view. But in practice, in a practical, okay. For example, I'm talking about myself. I submit a paper to a well-known journal, and they rejected some part of it, okay, because I bring some ungrammatical sentences from standard Arabic, and the two reviewers of them, and I think that both of them are Arabicists, okay, and their language, first language Arabic, they said that we don't have native speakers of Arabic, so you should exclude these examples, otherwise your paper shouldn't be accepted. So the main idea that we have a conflict between theory and practice. If you say we have native speakers of standard Arabic, many people out there would say that we don't have native speakers of standard Arabic because we don't use it in our daily life. And actually, I bet most of us didn't speak standard Arabic. Actually, we use dialects. And I remember a researcher who's called Erich Lonsky from Geneva University. He told me that when we talk Standard Arabic, you as a Jordanian, you say standard Jordanian Arabic. And Egyptian, they say Jordanian, Egyptian Standard Arabic, Egyptian Standard Arabic. So actually, I totally agree with you that we have misconceptions on main topics about the difference or the borderline between vernaculars and Standard Arabic. But the main idea, we don't have research actually on this part of the world, but more or less, my main topic is that research on vernacular shouldn't be suppressed and should be appreciated, especially by those who think that Standard Arabic is the optimal form of the language. I hope that I answer or comment on your nice questions, actually. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marwan. We can, of course, and Dr. Al-Masri can, of course, send you whatever questions on your mind, Professor Masri,
yes,
and Dr. Marwan will answer them. Let us go to, I think Dr. Tamimi raised his hand before, but in the screen it's Asil Zebin. So let us give to Dr. Tamimi the question, then Asil, then Hiba.
Thank you so much. I think I mistakenly clicked on the lower hand. Thank you, Dr. Marwan, for the presentation. And I just want to end with what Dr. Muhammad Al-Masri has finished his comment regarding this interesting book, Arabic as one. I think vernacular or dialect as well as modern standard Arabic go hand in hand in regards to the language, and I don't see any suppression or kind of downsizing of each of those two positions. So we basically use the modern standard Arabic when we're writing and when we're giving a speech and in different contexts, and then when we speak with people and friends, we're sitting in an informal setting, we basically use the vernacular language or dialect. And if you want to look at this talk from a different perspective related to how people actually use language, especially those who learn Arabic. In general, in the West, people learn modern standard Arabic. They start with modern standard Arabic. They learn it, they learn the syntax, the structure, and the details, and they try to apply it and everything. And then when they visit our country, they're really shocked by the fact that that's not our native language. That's not what's used. And people start laughing at it, unfortunately. And from this perspective, in my PhD, I actually worked on dialect and teaching culture. And we looked at the idea of why not put them together? Why not in different ways teaching modern standard Arabic as well as vernacular, depending on where you're from or where you're going to. Dr. Mandar Yunus has the integrated approach where he basically puts both of them together, and I think it makes a lot of sense. My question to Dr. Marwan Jarrah is regarding research, and I agree with you. There is not a lot of research on the vernacular, and a lot of it is done on modern standard Arabic. To a point that, as you said, some people will reject. They would reject research if it's not grammatically structured in a way that it is modern standard Arabic. But my question to you, and if you can help me with this, how can we support research in vernacular Arabic? How can we kind of raise this kind of awareness? And I don't want to say avoiding the traditionalists, because I respect their opinion and I strongly proud of the modern standard Arabic and the classical Arabic as part of our religion and Quran, and the beauty of the language lies in this language actually. But when you come to the vernacular, wherever you are, wherever you're going, whether it is Egyptian or Levantine Arabic or Moroccan Arabic, whatever, how can we support this kind of research to take place and encourage people to think seriously about why not try and do something like that? Because people who learn vernacular, people who want to communicate in the Levantine or Egyptian, they really need structure. They really need textbooks. They really in need of textbooks and people who are able to tutor them, teach them, so they can communicate with people. And you know, this way we can avoid a lot of troubles for those who come and visit us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed. This is really interesting. And I will leave Dr. Marwan to answer the question. And maybe at some point I will share with you my experience when I was on Erasmus Plus at Copenhagen University, who they discussed this in detail. Professor Jarrah, تفضل.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, so much for this nice comment, actually a nice question. First of all, I would like to say that people outside departments of English language and literature see our research on vernaculars not important, you see. For example, if you ask anybody from the departments of Arabic or departments of sociology, history, all this stuff, they get surprised that you are talking or researching some aspects of vernaculars. So we as a linguist actually agree on the importance of vernaculars, but if you go beyond beyond us, you will find that we have conflicting views on the importance on research, on standard, on dialects and standard Arabic. Actually, I think the main factor in order to support the research on vernacular or dialects is to convince people that these are languages. These are grammar. Okay, we have grammar of them. Some of people told me that they don't have grammar. Everything is loose, everything is liberal. We don't have word order. We don't have case, we don't have anything. You can't say anything. They use some words from other languages. So we need to tell them, we need to educate them actually that this is the case in other languages. It's not the idea, it's not imperfection to have a language like Jordan Arabic or Egyptian Arabic where we don't have structural case markings, okay? So the main idea is to convince them that vernaculars now do matter actually for linguistic theory. And as Dr. Muhammad Al-Masri said, we have only one Arabic, but we have, for me, different varieties of this one Arabic. And actually this is the case in all languages. For example, we have one English, but we have other Englishes. For example, the English spoken in New Zealand is quite different in terms of pronunciation and actually in some structure from those from English spoken in for example. So it's natural to have these varieties inside the same language. But what's unnatural actually is that some of them are low, some of them are high, some of them deserve research, some of them don't deserve research. You know, one of them told me, and we call them amiyat. You know, amiyat. So amiyat denotes that they don't deserve anything. So according to his experience, I'm saying here how vernaculars or dialects in general should be viewed actually from people who are working in traditionalist method departments or the like. Hope I answer your question, Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marwan. And if you allow me, when I was at Copenhagen University, now the program of learning, teaching Arabic language will be like this. The first 2 years, Arabic standard, and the next 2 years, the students will choose the relevant Arabic, Egyptian Arabic, and accordingly, they will be distributed and study the vernacular, what's called vernacular. I don't, by the way, like the word maybe vernacular, because it is like degrading, like Ammiye, but it's a dialect. So to study Jordanian Arabic, for example, because language is communication. And what's important for these non-native speakers who are Danish is to speak Arabic fluently. And they will never have the opportunity to speak modern standard Arabic fluently if they don't actually have a native speaker of the language. So Dr. Zebin. Dr. Asil.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Abdul Rahman. Thank you, Dr. Marwan, for your insightful talk. I actually agree with you. that more attention should be given to vernaculars/dialects. But I also agree with Dr. Muhammad Al-Masri that we need to redefine diagnostic situation, because usually when I work on Jordanian Arabic, I face a dilemma whenever I work on Jordanian Arabic. That is, where can you draw the line? Like, vernaculars in our diagnostic situation rely on standard, like many roots of the words and other derivatives are usually taken from standard Arabic. So we find ourselves usually in our research papers just trying to make a distinction all the time between the standard and the dialect. And what makes matters worse is that we don't have a source that tracks the evolution and the development of the vernaculars. We don't have idiosyncratic studies that, diachronic studies that track the development of these vernaculars. So how can we deal with such a dilemma? Because usually when I send a research paper to reviewers, they would ask me, does this come from standard Arabic, or is it just used in Jordanian Arabic? And sometimes I find it really difficult to answer that question. So like Dr. Muhammad Masri said, in other diagnostic situations, like for example in Haiti, we have the high variety, which is French, and the low variety, Haitian Creole. But in our situation, the high and the low varieties, if you want to call them this, they are really related to each other. So this is just my question. How do we deal with this problem in our research papers? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zibin, for this nice question and comment. Professor Jarrah, could you please?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Asil, for this nice comment actually as well. For me, I think it's not shame to say that this sentence is Jordanian Arabic. This sentence is standard Arabic. Okay, yani in other words, if we talk about standard Arabic, we need to bring this sentence from reference books, and we have many of them out there. And in Jordanian Arabic or Arabic in general, we need to bring some native speakers, okay? And sometimes we, as native speakers of the language, we depend on our intuition as speakers. We say that this is Jordanian Arabic, this is standard Arabic, but the most important thing is that not everything right or true for standard should be true for dialects, and the opposite way around. For example, according to my experience, I sometimes bring something, I say this is possible in Arabic. The reviewers or people out there saying, no, it's not acceptable in standard Arabic. But we need to understand that both of them are different grammars, okay? They share many things, especially in terms of phraseology, in terms of the words, in terms of all this stuff. But at the end of the day, we have two different grammars. So we need to admit and submit that we have two different grammars, and it's not a shame that this is Jordanian Arabic, this is standard Arabic. I think this is the solution, Dr. Asil, is to promote the research on Jordanian Arabic, on Arabic in general, on dialectical Arabic in general, and saying that there's nothing wrong if we bring some generalization from vernaculars. Actually, I use the term vernacular because it's not written. We don't have written codes, except for some few books actually in the West, but we don't have much or many books actually written on dialects. And some people say that if we have such books, it might destroy the integrity of standard Arabic. But the main idea is that we have standard Arabic, we have Jordanian Arabic, and we should admit this and this. Data from dialects coming from native speakers, whereas data from standard Arabic coming from the reference books.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marwan. This is interesting. And let us move to our next colleague, Hiba Jasser.
Yeah, مساء الخير everyone. Sorry. I just wanted to probably be a little bit more to give a practical evidence, because you see, revisiting the definition of what a native language is has always been a concern for me. And just to give you some hints about what's happening around the world, in our world. So I teach at a school which has students in the national program and the international program as well. Of course, all Jordanian students, with no exception. Now, when our students in the international program need to take the Arabic test, we have the option of going through the Arabic as a second language, Arabic as a first language. And it is the case that on an annual basis, students always go for the test that is for Arabic as a second language. That is their only way of actually getting high marks. Students themselves, they do not see themselves capable of, say, putting themselves or categorizing themselves as native speakers. And also when it comes to books on vernaculars, I've seen some when I taught Arabic for non-native speakers or foreigners. There were interesting books, especially Lebanese and Egyptian, but they are used for foreigners. So I think that the matter of vernacular versus dialect, or the fact that it's that this is a vernacular versus an official language, it's a matter of attitude, more or less.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Hiba. Dr. Marwan, can you please comment?
Thank you, Hiba. Thank you, Hiba, so much. Actually, yes, this situation in Jordan as about attitude and about the use of vernaculars or dialects and standard Arabic. But I want to comment actually on something here. We have some centers for teaching Arabic for foreigners, you know, like Qasid and some other centers are.
Yeah, that's the center I pointed to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when foreigners come to, for example, the University of Jordan use some standard books. Okay.
Yeah.
But when the foreigners, or for example, German, go to Qasid and those people teach them vernaculars, how to, for example, buy some hummus.
Yeah.
Or go in the streets. Actually, all the people there find out that we need to learn dialects.
All over again, they feel like they're restarting, and they always tell me that the moment they get into a taxi, they feel like everything they have learned in Arabic, which is usually more than 4 years before they come to Jordan, it has almost all been useless for them. They couldn't communicate with the drivers.
Yes, this is why, because the interest on learning or teaching standard Arabic, what we should teach students, or in general vernaculars, because these are, or dialects, because those are the language, those are the varieties that are spoken. So this is why all foreigners go to these centers, not to University of Jordan, because we have a mistake actually, in my view, in the curriculum. Our curriculum using, for example, standard Arabic, sometimes they use some poems from Arar, okay, the Jordanian poet, and they try to teach these foreigners these poems, okay. But the main idea, these poems don't reflect the actual, the actual word. If you go to a taxi in Amman, or you need to use Jordan Arabic, not Arar's poems, all of this stuff. And this is my point of view, actually. Thank you, Hiba, so much.
Especially the poem about Ya Rahatta Shayluch. It is very difficult to process.
Yes, by the way, it's there in the curriculum. They use this poem and other works by Arar and other poets, Ahmad Shawqi, to teach foreigners the Arabic in Jordan. But when they go outside the gates of University of Jordan, they find that we have different Arabic, actually.
By the way, your argument, I discussed it with the Professor John Dahi and Ola Pryan from Copenhagen University, and they loved it to the most. This is why people from Denmark will start studying dialects from year 3 and onwards. So now we will move to our great professor, Professor Jihad Hamdan. The floor is yours. Then Dr. Malik, and finally we have Dr. Sabri Shboul, Professor Sabri Shboul. So Dr. Jihad,
thank you very much, Dr. Takhayneh. And I'd like to thank Dr. Al Jarrah for this very insightful talk on vernaculars versus standard Arabic. And I do apologize for not being able to start with you to join this important seminar because I was outside Amman and I was on my way to my home and tried to connect through the mobile, but that did not work anyway. In fact, the issue of standard Arabic or Arabic as such, is really complicated. And one has to be very careful when using the term and when also saying that there are no native speakers of standard Arabic. And I will try to show that the problem is really, it's complex. Arabic is recognized by the UN as one of the UN languages, and so it's a language. Arabic, you see, it's not standard Arabic, it's Arabic. And Arabic is a subject in schools, and students start learning it in grade 1 or even in KG. Arabic, it is really problematic to say that it also doesn't have native speakers. It is even more problematic to say it's a second language. Is it really the case that we pray in a second language? We give speeches in parliament using second language? Is it really the case that there are hundreds and thousands of meetings and conferences every day? Are all these events conducted in a second language? This is really, I doubt it very much to say that all these activities are conducted in a second language. Books are in a second language. Again, we need to revisit this issue with more open-mindedness in order to find a way to reconcile a linguistic theory with realities. I know that the idea of a native speaker has been there for a long time. One has to acquire the language at home rather than at school, but also people can acquire a language when they are 5 years old. And they start learning Arabic when they are 5 years old. Now, to what extent they master it is another issue, but they start learning it there. Why is it not acquired? Is it because the learning system, the teaching system is problematic, or because it's really a language that is alien to those learners who come to school with their quote-unquote native language? And then another issue of importance. We Arabs, we can't live without standard Arabic. Standard Arabic is part of us. If we just use Jordanian Arabic, we can't survive. We can't survive in our community because we have to go and give speeches, we have to go and attend conferences, we have to, and what about all these satellite stations? Are they using a fake language? This Arabic, fake, not standard. But again, what about understanding? Are there speakers in Jordan who do not understand standard Arabic? I think we all understand standard Arabic. We all listen to news on TV Jordan and all TVs, all stations. We understand. We read papers, newspapers. Again, they are in one form of standard Arabic. I personally, as a linguist, I appreciate the idea of Ferguson, which was presented in 1956 about these diagnostic nature. I am not in agreement with the terms Ferguson used, that is high variety, low variety. But I find it suitable to say there are varieties. And this form of standard Arabic is just a variety. But this variety has its own prestige. standard Arabic has its own prestige, and spoken Arabic, Jordanian spoken Arabic has its own prestige. But again, standard Arabic, we have Bedouin, we have rural, we have urban, and each of these is learned, acquired natively. Sometimes it's very unlikely for an urban speaker of Jordanian Arabic to shift to another variety. Can we say that the other varieties are second language to him? All are under Jordanian Arabic. And of course, one may also talk about the possibility of some of these varieties dying. You see, I mean, maybe rural Arabic is dying, maybe Bedouin Arabic in Jordan is dying. What is flourishing is urban. But all these are under spoken Arabic, Jordanian spoken Arabic. So why to go to this extremity and do not find a way to reconcile? Because half of us is Jordanian, half of us is Moroccan, half of us is standard Arabic. And this half is shared by millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people in the Arab world. So we can't suppress this half. There should be a way. And we can, even if someone would like to look at it as second language, we can study the way we study English as a second language. But it's not, for me, it's not a second language. Arabic is the language. Arabic is the language, and Arabic has varieties. And some of these varieties have a sort of interrelated entity, and they are one language. Now, Chinese has Mandarin and Cantonese. Cantonese and Mandarin are not mutually understood by native speakers. Cantonese do not understand Mandarin, mainland, and vice versa. But for political reasons, they are considered as dialects of one language. So, and Chinese is flourishing. And where was it Chinese? Chinese is both Mandarin and Cantonese. We don't have anything just like this called Chinese. And the same applies to Arabic. And we linguists should find a way to develop this argument, to work hard on it. It is not settled really, it is still controversial. And we can contribute to this controversy by more research and by showing links, and that we are not schizophrenic Arabs, either Jordanian or standard. We are a mixture of both. This is one thing. Another thing, if Abdul Rahman allows me, is the idea of negative evidence. Now, negative evidence, the way it is presented by Dr. Jarrah is probably different from the way I understand it. Because negative evidence is basically correction. And this is part of Baker's paradox. One component of Baker's paradox in language acquisition is negative evidence. And children learning or acquiring their native language do not benefit from negative evidence. Negative evidence is correction. In standard Arabic, there is negative evidence, and negative evidence works because, and we have hundreds of books, say this and don't say this. Now say this, that is negative evidence. Don't say it, this is wrong. Huh? You are showing to the learner, to the speaker, that this is wrong, but use this. This is negative evidence. In first language acquisition, native evidence does not work at all. And children rely on positive evidence for acquiring their language. Now, the problem, I would like to relate this to what Dr. Jarrah said. The problem is that because of the idea of not having a standard Arabic as being used daily and as a living entity, I think, as a living creature and entity, there's no way to really have trust in negative evidence, because you can't tell whether this correction is really acceptable or not acceptable. And taking into consideration that there are schools, Basra school and Kufa school, and they look at, and you know, al-mas'ala al-Zinburiyya by Sibawayh and al-Kisai, and the whole story is known to you, yes, which again aggravates the scene. Anyway, I think to conclude, we as linguists, modern linguists, we need to fully acknowledge the status of standard Arabic and Jordanian Arabic and other vernaculars, but we need to show more recognition of Arabic as such, again, as one and whole language. And under this one whole, we can accommodate standard Arabic, Jordanian Arabic, Egyptian Arabic, and so on and so forth. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Professor Jihad, for these two nice comments. Professor Jarrah.
Thank you, Professor Jihad, first of all, for these nice questions. Actually, also all of our colleagues in here who want to comment on Dr. Jihad's questions are actually welcome, because I think these questions are not directed only to me, but all to our audience. So any feedback, any input from any other colleague actually is highly appreciated. Actually, for me, I do actually agree with Dr. Jihad that we have Arabic, okay? And this Arabic is a mixture of standard and vernacular, not only standard. This is my point, is that Arabic is not only standard. Arabic is a mixture of standard and vernaculars, okay? If we understand both of them, we now understand Arabic. But if we understand or direct all of our efforts to standard Arabic, we understand some variety of the Arabic, not all Arabic. So if we want to understand Arabic, we need to understand both of them. So Arabic is more than standard, is more than dialects actually, is a mixture of both of them. I totally agree on this idea. And the idea of second language here, I'm not talking about that second language in terms of acquisition, but second language in terms of judgment, okay, in terms of judgment, because we have there some research on the what do you mean by a native speaker who provides a judgment, okay? If you remember Dr. Abdul Rahman, there's somebody in Newcastle who lived there for 30 years. He was Dutch, but the professor says that he was Dutch. He's by the way professor of English, William, and English diacony, and I think he has a knowledge of English more than other English speakers, but he was not able to provide a judgment on a simple sentence, whether this is true or not. So my idea is the idea of definition of a native speaker. And we go back to Dr. Muhammad Al-Masri's question, what do you mean by native speaker? What do you mean by native judgments? I think all of these terms are still vague, but for me at least, standard Arabic is a variety of Arabic, it's not all Arabic. So we need to consider vernaculars as well. And I actually think that the interest or the importance going to standard, so we should appreciate the vernaculars, that they are there, okay, not the other way around. As I understand Dr. Jihad, he talks about that we need to have some interest or appreciate standard. It should be the other way around, because standard Arabic is the locus actually of much research. I'm not talking about research of linguistics in English departments, but research outside linguistics, okay? Research on Arabic, research on schools of Sharia, school of arts and humanities, all of this stuff, even outside universities, the research, the focus on the standard rather than the vernaculars.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marwan, for providing answers. And if you allow me, and the Professor Jihad, of course, there is another problem with the definition between acquisition and learning. And we know that the acquisition is subconscious and the learning is conscious. And based on the recent research in second language acquisition, what's called the puberty, which is up to 5 years before like the language is acquired. After 5 years or 7 years, and you all don't know about critical period hypothesis, 13 years, there, as Professor Jihad mentioned, to what extent a person masters the language. But the idea is after 5 or 6 years, when our kids and brothers, whatever, start learning Arabic, standard Arabic, they will not master it as, let us say, good as Jordanian Arabic, as far as this context is concerned, which means Amman. I live in Amman. So we need to take care of both. And I do agree that in conferences, I deliver speeches in standard Arabic, But to be honest, I can't judge sentences based on modern Jordanian Arabic with much more competent, let us say, because it is the language I speak on a daily basis with my family and friends.
Dr. Abdul Rahman, there's a point that the child at age of 7 or 6 or 5 is not exposed to all standard Arabic. He starts studying standard Arabic. He just starts studying a few sentences from standard Arabic. Doesn't mean that he's a competent speaker of standard Arabic.
Especially when you give him like compound complex sentences with complementizers and stuff like that. Anyway, it is a very lovely discussion, and we can talk about it later. Let us move and receive another question from Dr. Malik Zregat. Dr. Malik. Let us go to Professor Sabri Shboul, and we come back to Dr. Malik.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam.
I always enjoy listening to Dr. Marwan speeches. I think we have to look at this point from different perspectives. Maybe the first perspective is the academic research, and the other is in terms of the language use itself. At the academic research, I think the notion of dichotomy between the vernaculars on one point and maybe standard language should not be that much critical and misleading, in the sense that when we believe in one unified lexicon, I think if we look into the architecture of the lexicon itself for the speakers of Arabic, I think maybe both would have the same operations and processes in the lexicon. And this would add ample evidence to the notion that maybe at the language acquisition levels, if we do not expose a child to standard Arabic at any level, maybe he or she would not encounter any problem in recognizing this Arabic later. Maybe this supports the idea of having one unified lexicon. Maybe another idea that I have is in terms of the Sapir-Whorf, let's say, speculations or hypotheses, in the sense of shaping thoughts by language. What is the destiny for our thoughts if we had two different grammars, as what Dr. Marwan said? So I don't know. I want to see more reflections on this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sabri. Dr. Marwan, would you like to comment on Dr. Sabri's, Professor Sabri's?
Yes. Thank you, Professor Sabri, for your always nice comments, actually, and your lovely presence all the time. I totally agree with you that we have shared lexicon between standard Arabic and dialects, okay? But the case that do we have the same syntactic operations for each of them? Actually, this is a doubtful issue that need to be explored more and more. More or less, we have the same syntax, which is called narrow syntax. Now, all languages share the same syntax, but they are different in terms of movement or agreement or all of this stuff. And actually, there's a nice point by you that even if a child does not go to school, he will understand, for example, at age 15, everything said to him using standard Arabic. So this means that we have a lot of commonalities between the two varieties of the same language. And this calls for what Dr. Jihad Hamdan said and Dr. Muhammad Al-Masri for him, as that we have one Arabic language. But the main idea that even if we have one dialect, one language, we should not ignore the fact that we have standard variety and we have dialects. So this is a fact, okay? If we just say that they are similar or they might be the same thing, this might downsize actually the fact that we have two different varieties, okay, Standard Arabic and Jordanian Arabic. And for me personally, I agree with Ferguson that we have low variety and we have high variety, because for example, if in, Dr. Sabri, in formal settings, if you start even to the president of university or to somebody official in Jordan, if you start using your vernacular that you use with your family, it might be downgrading to you, you know that, okay? So sometimes we are forced to use Standard Arabic, even in situations where Jordanian Arabic might do the thing, but this is the main idea. We have two different dialects, varieties, and we should submit this situation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marwan. Now let us take a question from Dr. Rima Salah. And Dr. Dina, if you are the admin, could you please unmute Dr. Zregat, please, or Dr. Dua? Try to unmute Professor Zregat.
I will.
Dr. Rima, تفضلي.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Rahman. Thank you all for this insightful seminar. Actually, I have one comment. It's not a question. That it's well known that vernaculars do not have grammar. Actually, I disagree with this belief, so to speak, or hypothesis, because we actually have grammar, or let's say every vernacular is standardized in a way or another. Like, for example, in Fallahi accent, sorry, we do not say ما تعصبنيش. There's no double negation in Fallahi accent. We say تعصبنيش. Another example, for example, in Bedouin accent, the affricate cha, we cannot pronounce the cha in initial or as initial sound. So we say kefich, not chefich. So I believe that every vernacular is standardized in a way or another. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rima. Yes, I do agree with you as well. Every vernacular has its own grammar, and it could be rich. By the way, for me, Jordanian Arabic is richer than Standard Arabic as far as reduplication is concerned in morphology. في عندنا شوي, which means little, شوي, it becomes an adverb meaning slowly, and we don't have such phenomenon in modern Standard Arabic. We have ليل, نهار, but I analyzed them in my PhD thesis, but they are not as rich in compositionality as much as the Jordanian Arabic. So, Dr. Marwan.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Rahman. Thank you, Dr. Rima, for your contribution and comments. Actually, what I said is that some people might say that in vernaculars or dialects don't have grammar. This is not my personal view. My personal view is rather that they have solid grammars, and a grammar as expressive and formative as that of Standard Arabic, as English, as other languages. In linguistic theory, nowadays we understand that all languages are expressive, all languages are informative, all languages have the same neurosyntax computational systems, but the main difference between them is just a kind of surface differences. So we don't have deep difference between languages, and this is why the importance of universals and how syntax becomes a cognitive science, because it is a reflection of the mind in one way or another. But more or less, the dialects have their grammars, and as you said, we have some constructions that are used in other vernaculars, not acceptable in this vernacular. But actually, a comment here, general comment, in Fallahi Irbid, we might use double negation in the sense of ما جاش مثلا أو ما كتبش. We might say ما كتب, especially by young females, but more or less we can't say ما كتبش. Or I don't want to disagree with you actually on this point, but might say that yes, it's right that vernaculars, not everything is acceptable with vernaculars. Okay, they have grammars, they have limitations, and sometimes delimitations, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Actually, double negation in Fallahi accent has to do with الفعل الماضي. ما إجاش, ما كتبش. but
so
not
we have
فعل
double
أمر.
negation. We have double negation, but for
not in
some
فعل
phonological
أمر.
reasons, we might not have it in present, because it might be the case that imperfective in Arabic starts with the pat sound, so it's a kind of assimilation. But more or less, we have double negation.
Yes, thank you.
But, just one small comment, Dr. Reem. Can we say Jash?
Of course not. So double negation has to
This
do
is
with
going to be interesting
فعل الماضي.
research paper.
فعل الماضي.
Yeah, but we can say Majash or Maija, but we cannot say Jash. So there, it's not a negation on its own, and you can think of it as circumfixation. It is a circumfix. It is one negation, goes around the stem, like in German, gefragt mean ask, and the verb becomes the past asked. So this is from morphological point of view. Anyway, it's going to be an interesting research paper to see those who accept and those who don't. Can we go to the Hiba Jasser now again? Okay. By mistake, I think. Now, Dr. Muhammad Ajalin, تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Thank you, Dr. Marwan, for this very interesting presentation. And I think the main point of your presentation that the vernaculars and dialects is a rich field for research. Okay. But here what I see is that the talk was organized or oriented against who are with the, let's say, the dialects and who are against the dialects or something like this. But I think dialects, I can say that they are governed by the brotherhood relationship, because all the dialects of Arabic language, if we can say the Jordanian dialect, the Egyptian dialect, are related to the standard Arabic in a way or another, because it's still governed by the rules, governed by the reach of the vocabulary or the number of vocabulary used in the dialects. But I want to say that, can we say dialect and vernaculars are the same? Because I know that dialects define a set of people, a set of speakers in a certain or in a certain region or in a country, which makes different from the speaker of another dialect from another country. Can we say that dialect and vernacular are the same, or is there a difference? And this is my question.
Thank you very much, Muhammad. Dr. Marwan.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad, for your question. Actually, I use two terms interchangeably, in the sense that dialects, for me, it might be a vernacular. Vernacular is more or less used when we don't have a written form of the language. But as Dr. Muhammad al-Masri said, actually, with the presence of mass media and written forms of the language, it's better to call them dialects. But I use the term vernaculars in order to mimic what people in the Arabic departments or those people outside English departments say, al-ammiyat, do you see? But for me, I use them interchangeably with no difference actually in content. But actually my talk, as you said, is not that research on Arabic should be suppressed or the other way around. I totally agree with the idea, and I think this is also lumped up with Dr. Jahad Hamdan, Professor Jahad Hamdan, in saying that we have only one language, and this language has different varieties, and we should consider the grammar or the linguistic evidence coming from all of these varieties. I hope I answered your question, Dr. Muhammad.
Yeah, this is indeed what you said. We need to take care of both and not to ignore vernaculars. And we all are proud of ourselves and our kids of learning standard Arabics, but it's a fact. We are discussing facts here, scientific facts about both. And now, even if somebody said all vernaculars are coming from standard Arabics, we come back to the argument: who comes first, الصوص ولا البيضة, the egg or the kutkut? Because there is no evidence that the standards started before. And there is from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, انه حكى بلهجة, and it's hadith, دكتور مروان يمكن حافظه, انه حكى بلهجات while he was asking people to get into Islam. At that time, and Standard Arabic, we know, Al-Basriyun al-Kufiyun, they arranged and unified this form of Standard Arabic, which is recent in comparison with what was said during Prophet Muhammad's period and message. Dr. Malik, did you get the mic again?
Yeah, I'm not pretty sure if you could hear me.
Yeah, we could hear you. Yeah, the floor.
Perfect. Sorry for that interruption. I do owe you an apology, so I'm so excited just to be part of this seminar. I'd like definitely to thank the speaker, the moderator, and Dr. Hamouri for just being part of this, just sitting beside the speaker, probably, as I believe. My comment is right now, like, yeah, deferred, so it might just seem like out of context. It is seriously related to Dr. Jihad's comment regarding the wholeness of vernacular, the association between the vernacular and the standard. From a cultural perspective, I'm afraid that culture is both tangible and intangible. And when it comes to talk about the vernacular, then are we talking about the tangible or the intangible, taking into consideration that Arabic vernaculars are not almost written down? Again, the examples raised by Professor Jihad regarding the language of journalism, regarding the language of literature, probably even the speaker himself mentioned Arab. As I believe it is a cultural exclusive problem when it comes to communicating with other cultures, if we are relying on the vernacular, the written form of the vernacular. So I'd like to hear from you, Professor Marwan, regarding the relationship between the vernacular and culture. On the one hand, definitely. On the other hand, if we are dealing with language as a means of communication, and then what sort of communication are we talking about? Are we talking about regional communication? Could we just extend that to, or broaden that to have something like more broader, something international, something universal? What are sort of the main obstacles that would just resist such a broadening process, and what are the benefits of just risking that, if you don't mind? Thank you again very much for giving me the opportunity to talk directly to you.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Rahman.
Fadal, Dr. Marwan, thank you very much, Dr. Zreigat. Dr. Marwan, Fadal.
Yes, thank you a lot, my friend, actually, and Dr. Malik Zreigat, for your nice contribution and your two comments, actually, to the debate of relationship between vernaculars and culture. More or less, actually, every language is a reflection of its culture. This is, you know, is a kind of a principle or axiom in the grammar, that in the general the grammar, that every language is a reflection of the culture. So if you go to Egyptian Arabic, you might have some words, okay, that are not used in Jordanian Arabic because these words reflect to some objects or something cultural in Egyptian Arabic. And the same true actually to all languages in the world, not only standard Arabic or vernaculars. So it's a kind of association between a culture and the language itself. So actually this, for me, is a further reason why we should study vernacular, because these are windows to the culture of the countries where they are spoken. Okay, for example, if you come to Irbid or Ajlon, where you are settled, actually, we have some examples, some words, okay, that are not used, that are Ajlon local. Okay, when they are spoken by some people, you might say that you are from Ajlan because they are reflections. I'm not talking about the tone or intonation. I'm talking about the phraseology or some words that are reflection of the culture. So vernaculars or dialects are much more associated with the culture of the countries where they are spoken.
Thank you very much.
I'm talking about the communication. I'm talking about the daily communication in its broad sense. I'm not talking about regional communication or specific type of communication. I'm talking about the communication for which the language is there, which is the expressive communication. When I'd like to express myself, I use this form of the language. And for example, some people might say that vernaculars is the form of the language that you use when you get angry, or when you are so happy, or when you are not aware of the language form that you use. So this is the idea of communication. So in these contexts, we use the vernaculars rather than the standard Arabic. So this is why some people say that vernaculars is the first language, whereas standard Arabic is the second language. But as Dr. Jihad, Professor Jihad said, this is a controversial area of research, and we should revisit actually the main concepts relating to this